Abyss 1, also known as Nightmare 5, is just around the corner, and I've been seeing a lot of people saying that it is too hard, and a lot of people saying that they like the difficulty. So in this video, I will be going over, first of all, the highest recorded run ever, because of course we gotta have a baseline to answer the question of, is this too hard for content? And then obviously, that'll be the rest of the video is, do I think it's too hard? How do I think they can, make it a bit more balanced, make it a bit better? Because I will just say that there are a couple kinks to work out, which I think need to be gone over near the end. But with that out of the way, let's get into it. Obviously, I cannot go over this without showing you guys a frame of reference. So I'm going to show you the best run I was able to get on test server. And to my knowledge, this is the highest recorded score out of anyone who's ever played this stage. I could be wrong about that, but that is what it seems to me so far. Now, here's the team I will be using. It's going to lag a little bit while I go through because I have to use this on an emulator, and the emulator does not like to run properly. So my apologies. But this is the team that I will be using. And to kind of break it down a little bit, there are three main things you need. You need survivability, number 1, which is going to be supported by Carnelian the most. There's a couple abilities in here, including one which is literally impossible to survive no matter what character you use. Even like a Toreador will get blasted and die, and anything around it will also die. So you have to have Carnelian, unfortunately, to get a high enough score. So we have Carnelian there for a little bit of survivability. Element's there for some healing, but is more for support. Pharisie's damage reduction, passive to everyone in his range. It's about 30%. Super, super, super nice. We got Diao Chan, who can provide some additional healing. Wukong's A1 is really good because it allows people to help live. And then Volca puts out damage reduction onto the boss, which also helps us live a little bit. We're still going to struggle with staying alive. Towards the end, you're going to see that things can go wrong very, very fast. But outside of survivability, the most important thing that you really have to, plan around, we also have support, which is stuff like Elowen's Rage Regen, Diao Chan's extra attack increases and stuff. And then we also have Sulkadin's and Volca putting out debuffs, which is really good to allow us to do more damage, which is the final category. So we have, Wukong and Kagiri as physical damage. You want more physical damage than you want magic damage by surprisingly a lot. Magic damage, just to put it simply, has a smaller peak damage output than physical damage. That's just how it works. And the way the boss works is it goes physical damage, physical damage, magic damage. But the boss is so impossibly hard to kill the shields after a certain point that you're only ever going to be able to break 3 shields reliably, even if you have everything A5, like I do right here. So, going into this, you want to have more physical damage. Volca, Kagiri, Wukong will help with that. And then we also have Hex and Sulkadins to just kind of help us with the magic damage. These two are some of the better magic damage units. Praetus and Ingrid and stuff, or Praetus and Alistair, etc., did quite a bit worse in my testing. So I think this works out the best. Toreador obviously has the Lord, and to help us live a bit longer, because we need someone to tank single target hits. You have to have one unit that can survive, and that is going to be Toreador. So this is the entire team. Let's go into it, and I'm going to try to walk you guys through it. Placements will not be perfect. Timings will not be perfect by any means, but we're going to see how far I can go with most things at a high awakening. So to start off, we're going to place our DPS, and then we are going to place our supports to put on Invig onto the rest of our team. Here we're going to put down Wukong. We're going to put Diao Chan right here. I've been placing everything on the left. I'm going to put Kagiri right here, as well as Pharisee going on the bottom. Then we're going to have Hex here. We're going to put Carnelian right here. Then Sulkadins can go right here. And then Elowen right here. She's not going to get covered by Pharisee, but it's really hard to get people on kind of grouped together in a way. And then Toreador, this is very important, is going to go right here. We want to have Toreador as far away from everything else as possible. because the single target thing is going to get hit by meteors at some point, which I will point out when we get to it. And those meteors will do about 30k damage like 5 times and will kill everything in sight. And it's near impossible to survive. And it does damage to adjacent teammates, right? So everything around him is going to die. And we need Carnelian for that. And we want as few people around him as possible. Maybe I could place Volca 1 tile back, but I just find that this works best for me. Now, of course, we do have to kind of do as much damage as we can right now, of course. So I will be clicking some alts as we go into it. Diao-chan didn't switch because of course she didn't. That's a bit rough, but despite the lag, you're seeing that everyone is kind of getting really low on health. So we're just going to click some alts and hope that we can survive. That's just kind of how this entire, boss is going to go. Here I'm going to click Kigiri alt, and then we're going to click Wukong alt. Here we have the debuffs out, and then we have the damage out. We're already at about 6,000 score. Obviously, the higher we can get it, the better. But that's kind of where we are now. And as soon as it says the dragon is going to be promoted, it swaps immediately. So we're going to just start clicking some other alts as well and try to work around the lag because it's pretty bad. While also clicking our alts for damage. I'm going to also place the clone or the wood sprite thing in the middle when I need to, because Volk is going to take a lot of damage. Element's not on that side. Maybe I could work on some better placements, but who really cares, right? So we're just going to keep this going and see what we can do. I'm actually also going to click Volca alt in order to put the debuffs out, so Hex can do a little bit more damage. As you can see, because we have Carnelian, and Carnelian is so insanely good, we're okay. And now we're going to get hit with Meteoric Deluge, which, as you can see, is targeting Torador, and it does a ton of damage to everyone around. Keep in mind, this is early Drake's Nightmare 5, and the boss gets stronger after every conversion. So when we get back to this phase where we're doing magic damage, we're going to get hit even harder by this ability, and you have to have Carnelian to survive it, or you have to just sack your units. Obviously, Torador would have revived if he died, but it's still, that is like the main killer that I've been seeing that you really have to be aware of. Now, anyways, the shield's about to come up, so I'm going to click Solkadins, and he's going to blast him out of existence, and we should hopefully be fine. Keep in mind that we can swap the Diao-chan at any time for more survivability, and now we can actually hit the boss the way we want to. So I'm going to wait a little bit in order to Volca ult, just to do some extra damage, and then we're going to be doing Wukong. We're already at 15k, but we're only going to realistically get 1 or 2 more, rotations out of here. And Solkadins just died because I wasn't really paying attention to the survivability enough, which, like I said before, earlier in the stage, is the main issue. The main drawback, the main difficulty is survival. That's just it, right? So we are going to die with Solkadins. Hopefully we can get him back soon. And as long as Carnelian does her job, we should be okay. Now here I'm going to click Wukong and Kigiri alts. Kigiri is freaking goated for this, but unfortunately we are struggling a little bit here. Whew. Okay, we're good. We're good. But that's another shield down. We are at 20k, doing a little bit more damage. That is 22k almost, which is one of the requirements. So already we're at about 22k, and I'm going to try my best to survive from now on. But keep in mind that we're not going to. Everyone's built with HP, by the way. I want you guys to know that. And we're getting kind of rolled. I'm going to place Solkadins down again and just hope that they don't die. I'm going to click, Carnelian alt to try to refresh it. Refresh the thing. And I guess I'll do Volca again to do a bit more damage. But right now, we're going to get blasted. We're going to get our ass blasted, Volca dies, and then Wukong dies because there's just not enough healing out. Everything's dying right now because we just can't get enough healing because freaking everyone's dying. And then Sulkanen is going to hit this, and we're not going to do enough damage, and we die. And that's that. That's the boss. Now, I do think this shield will be broken eventually. I think when it comes to global, someone like Fibu, for example, or someone who's good at the guild bosses and has the awakenings, the gear, the know-how, is going to do a good job, and will maybe theoretically 35k could be possible. But I think that's where it ends, because the shield gets a pretty high amount more health every time, and it builds and it builds and it builds. And realistically, I think 30k, 40k at the most is the maximum anyone can get. Now, here are the stats before I go into the rant a little bit here. We did a ton with Kagiri. Kagiri's the best DPS for this. Wukong's really good too, keeps everyone alive. Hex did a decent amount of damage. Sulkanen you could probably make stronger, but that's it, right? Almost everything is A5, and unless people come out with like a genius strat, I don't see anyone really getting a lot higher than this. So that brings me to, is this content too hard? I know a lot of people are saying that they think it is. I don't think so, and I'm going to tell you guys why. For example, when Guild Boss 2 came out, it was the hardest content in this game. And since then, we've gotten a complete mechanic change. We've gotten Lucius, we've gotten Kagiri, Lyra, you know, these people that completely get rid of an entire phase of the boss. You know, we've gotten heroes like Wukong, Kagiri again for damage. You know, we've gotten, you know, a lot of heroes, to Lula. I mean, the list goes on and on. This is just off the top of my head. But so many heroes that have come out, if not almost all of them, have been geared towards Guild Boss 2. Because it was the hardest content and people needed options, right? If you're not really grinding this game as much as someone like I am, where you really are trying to learn everything, it's going to be a lot harder for you because you just don't have the time. So providing extra heroes allows you to have an easier time, and it also allows the company to make the game sell new heroes that doesn't require them to completely power creep every other hero and every other piece of content, which ultimately, in my opinion, is a good thing. You don't want to have freaking a Wukong as every new hero, right? Wukong kind of broke boss content for everything. But if you release like a Tallulah or you release a Lucius or something, which are good in other places but really specialized, I find that it allows you to keep the balance of the rest of the game intact, while also selling heroes in a way that you can make money and you continue to operate the game, right? That's kind of my perspective there. And then on another thing, content is too easy, and a lot of people watching this are going to disagree with me. And that is okay. But as an endgame player, I mean, I've been playing for over 500 days. Realistically, there's 2 pieces of content to do, maybe 3. You can do GVG, which is my favorite, but not a lot of people like GVG, and the rewards are not there. So people do it for competition and the love of the game. So if you do not have that love, you are not going to give a shit, right? GVG is obviously PvP content. Then we got Arena, which is also PvP content, but fundamentally is not a enjoyable piece of content. It needs a rework massively in a lot of ways. And then another thing, which is Immortal Codex, which is purely for leaderboards and, if you're competitive, to compete against other people for a score. And that's it. Really, that's endgame content. There's not much to do. Everyone who's been playing for a long time needs something to work towards, which is what Guild Boss 2 was when it came out, and now it's easy, right? So we need something like this to keep people engaged, keep endgame players, pushing. Like, I like how this content works for, a little newer players, because you can still get the 5,000 chest, which is better than Nightmare 3, for example. And it is worth going for because it can have soul stones, which are the most desirable resource in the game, right? So you're going to use 200 gems every day to get 3 chances at soul stones. So the rewards are there, and they're accessible by most players who have been playing for a decent amount of time. But getting the higher chests is going to be solely endgame stuff. And even for endgame players, you're not going to be able to do it unless you're really good at the game, really strong account, or more solutions are released, which I don't think is a bad thing. So despite my praise for this piece of content, there are 3 main things that I have concerns about. Number 1 is definitely the reliance on Carnelian. It is just a fact with this boss that there is too much damage being put out. So much damage, in fact, that you can't win, or you can't survive and even have a chance if you do not have Carnelian, which I think is really bad. The boss just simply does too much damage. There's so many abilities that are working all the time to put out ridiculous amounts of damage, and then there's a couple abilities that essentially just one-shot you, and you need her. It's necessary, which is kind of bad for a gateway into this content to really have it limited by, one unit to even get to enjoy it, right? I think the damage numbers for a couple of the abilities, especially that freaking meteorite thing, which is way overtuned, needs to be brought down a little bit, including some other abilities. I think that is the one thing that when I was going through, I was really bothered by. I did not enjoy it all, and I think needs to be changed, is just lower the damage for a lot of the abilities. It should be more about a damage check, or a team composition being put together check, or a skill check. But instead, it's, do you have Carnelian, and can you place her down and wait? Essentially, right? I don't really like that, and I would like that to change. The other thing, though, or one of the other things, is you can kind of see here. This is a different day where I'm recording this part, but I've done about 43,000 blood, which we've established is not something you can do on your own. You get about 4% from about 25,000 blood, which, I mean, I've done, to my knowledge, the highest recorded score for this boss. To be doing 4% out of 100, and you have to do this every day to even get double chests, is going to turn a lot of people off, because getting one chest is just going to feel terrible, whether the rewards are so much better or not. And they are better, for sure. But the fact that people are not going to be able to finish it off, even if you're in a top 10 guild in the game, you're not going to get enough. I mean, 3% is like 20k almost of a score. 30 people are not going to be hitting that, but even if they did, on average, hit 20k, it's going to be 90% of the boss dead. Instead of 100%, you're not even killing it there, right? And that's for people, that only people who have like A5 Wukong and Kagiri can get to that point, because it's a little overtuned with its scoring. So I think that they need to lower the required score of the boss in order to get double chests. It's not going to make a big impact, but I think it would really encourage people to take it a bit more seriously if it actually was a goal that was in reach, or just getting more rewards, right? Because when people get one chest, they're not going to like it, including me. I think that I would like this to actually be killable instead of just not killable. That's one of my complaints. Obviously, if you guys don't agree, feel free to comment or whatever, but I think that needs to be changed a little bit. The final thing is, I have concerns with the auto fights. In my experience, I mean, I auto fought today to get a screenshot or two, so that's why you see that I have a score. But the auto fight was surprisingly consistent, but I am worried that for people, especially without Carnelian, or without, the heroes that I have and the build that I have, I think that auto fighting is going to be a pretty big issue. And I think I would like to see some steps to make that a bit consistent. Maybe just rework auto fights throughout the entire game. The auto fights need to be better, is the final thing I will say. Those are the 3 main things that I have an issue with, or I think need to be improved on. Obviously, it is a little overtuned. I think this is a good step in difficulty. I think it should be this difficult. I do not think it should be nerfed at all. I think it needs to be adjusted to be not easier, but more forgiving. There is a difference. They're not mutually exclusive. I think the boss should be hard, should be around this difficulty, especially if you want it to be a long-lasting piece of content, which clearly it is designed to be. But there also needs to be a little bit of forgiveness and flexibility in order to make mistakes, to build your team comp in different ways. You need to have that to make it more interesting and more enjoyable. And right now, there's a couple things which are really going to turn people off from this content that need to be adjusted. Not even everything I said that I think should be changed is not the only parts that should be adjusted, but it is not too hard. It is too frustrating, I think, in certain ways. And I would like to see steps going towards, the proper direction there. But of course, those are just my thoughts as someone who has played with it. Keep in mind that this is not the finalized version of this boss. It could absolutely change over time. We're not sure if this is going to be the end result, but I really, really hope that they do not nerf this into the ground like they did with Guild Boss 2 with, changing the mechanics and stuff, which was a good change. But looking back, we need more things to work towards. So I would like it to stay around this tough. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. I just kind of went off on a tangent, ranting, whatever. Sorry about that, guys. But that's kind of everything I wanted to talk about. And yeah, that's it for me. Destined signing out.